Bullshit, I can't hear you. Sound off like you got a pair.
Damn, Gumby, I barely got it started. What's up, man? Like, man, I hadn't even had a chance to start the countdown yet. You were still like, first. Oh, you're just lying in wait, huh? right, I got the seed run going for HackBot, so we can try and keep testing out the exploit agent. Timer's up. I missed it. All right, let's see if I can rework some of these windows a bit. What's up, everybody? Oh, I hadn't even started my pregame routine. Yeah. Nerd! Shut up, baby. I know it. All right. We're just going to give it a second here to let HackBot do the seed run, and then we'll dive back into the exploitation agent. What did I leave off with last night? Let me see. I think I remember, actually, I believe I left it up in the trace up here. Yeah, it was the exploit step revisions. That's what we were working on. Because this is not returning properly. That's right. Mr. Elite Warrior, what's up, brother? Happy Sunday. Yeah, we're working on the revisions here. So that's fine, because it's going to get through part of that during the seed run, and then it will error out. In fact, it's already done. It's already errored out for us. Perfect. Excellent. Let's go see what Stinger came back with. It should come back with like the same thing, index out of range. It's because it's returning the wrong shape of the data. Yep. Raw mirror. You know what I want to do, actually, before we go dig into that, I want to see just what it's doing on some of these other things real quick. So, okay. So, I mean, this looks all, it looked like it was all running, running really well, but I wanted to see if it was doing anything else in here. Let's see. So we give it the target, and see, in this one, we do tell it, hey, give us an action and reason for what you're doing. And so it calls nmap, that's all good. Does the host update, and then it passes it to enum. Let's see, what is the validator doing here? What's running on port 22? It sends it all the host data. And it's like, okay, cool, we can answer that actually, already based on this. Nice. And then it finally does go run Go Buster. Okay, I just wanted to double check, since we haven't really looked at the Recon and Enum agents in a bit. So I wanted to see... Yeah, the VPN's running. No, it's good. In fact, I double checked it before I even started up everything. So what I've been doing is just coming over and making sure I can actually hit the proper target in the web browser. Make sure it's all up and nice and running. All right, so the kicker here is, down here when we start the exploitation agent, the revisor is not returning the correct shape of the data right here. So if I remember correctly, what I wanted to do last night was actually, we were going to try sending this an entire exploit task. We're going to try this. We're going to let it do the entire task in here, which contains all the sub-steps to it. Yeah, just trolling. You jerk. Let's see here. Let's come back over to our exploit agent here. So what we're sending it right now This is the step processor. What are you doing, step processor? I'm actually working on that, by the way. I was working on something to... I'll have that up as a redeem here pretty soon, and it'll be pretty funny. Let's see. Where's our... That's our planner. Where's the revisor? Here we are. So what we're sending this now, whenever we bind the language model with the tools... Where is it? There's our template. We get our template all put together. Bind tools. There we go. So we're doing the exploit step revisions in here. But the problem with that is... If we go back over to... Actually, I think that we did that as an output formatter. Right here. Yeah. So what did we actually... Let's see. Let's go take a look at something. What did we send the model? Let's make sure we're clear on that. Because we should have sent it the entire piece of information here. Let's see. Yeah, so this is the entire shape of... Actually, I take it back. This was the context for this. And here was our output right here. Wait, did we not send it the entire exploit task? Let's go take a look real quick. So when we build this... Oh, there should have been another thing in there. Exploit steps. Hang on. So context. There's our system prompt. Hang on. Where? Why is that not showing up in here? Hang on a second. So there's our task, our output, our context, our steps. Oh, wait, here we go. Yeah, this should be the entire steps in here. Yeah. And that's what I was trying to double check it. So this has all the steps in here, right? Tells us everything that we did. Hang on one sec. Let me pop into OPSEC mode so I can go grab something from another window real quick. There we go. Oh, that was suboptimal. That's okay. One sec here. There we go. All right, got it back up now. So I was doing some work on a PowerShell script, and unfortunately, when that happens, you can actually turn VS Code into ICE mode. So like PowerShell ICE. But unfortunately, when you do that, it turns the entire thing into like white. So this is not CoffeeScript. This should be Python. There we go. Yeah, go ahead and install the Python extension. I haven't set this up on this computer yet. Good thing I can read hexagon. All right, let me close this. Let me close that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say bar equals this, and let me see if it will let me format. You're not going to let me format this document, are you? You suck. And what sucks is I think if I do this as JSON, it's still not going to format it for me. All right, fine. Just do it this way. You're killing me, Smalls. Okay, hold on. Easier way to do this. Just do this in a Python terminal, Python console. Boop. Here we go. So what we'll do is we'll say our var is going to equal this. And then we can actually just drill into it over here. Okay, cool. So we do see all the steps in here, which was navigate to the upload form, upload the web shell, try to access the web shell, test connectivity, create the initial access exploit, and then verify the initial access exploit. Boom. Okay. So it does look like it's getting the full shape of the data in there, which is good. This would be everything in here. Unfortunately, what it's returning back is just this thing right here. So I think what we'll do is we're going to modify this a wee bit. We're going to take this and say steps, and we're going to call this the exploit task. And we are going to have to go through and modify the prompt, which sucks because this is a kind of a chunky prompt, but we can do it. Hey, Slow-Mo, what's up, man? What's your take on AI pen testing? A friend told me human element was still very needed to verify. Absolutely. In fact, if you want any other better data about that, check out this report here. So this is the blog post, but down at the bottom of the page is the actual full report right here. I'm still getting everything set up where I can start making YouTube videos again. Once that's done, this is the first article I'm going to be covering. And when that's done, I'll post it up. It's probably going to be at least another week, probably closer to 2 weeks since I had the computer crash out. But when this is done, I'm going to put it in there and I'm going to explain the critical piece of information they left out, the interesting bits they put in, and a lot of skepticism. And the only reason I say that is because we've been sitting here building HackBot on stream for 9 months. I know what some of the challenges and issues it's going to face. So we'll probably see it in a month. Damn it, Gumby. Probably. Actually, so I've got an idea. Let me see what y'all think about this. Let me clear this out real quick. I also was trying to get the iPad up and working today, but it just wasn't working. So what I'm doing here is I don't like cutting the videos out of the live stream. I think it's lazy and the editing process is so freaking heavy. So here's what I'm doing. So we've got some kind of news article that we're covering, right? And in that news article, what I'm doing is I'm actually piping it through FFmpeg. And I'm extracting a WAV file from this MPEG right there. From that WAV file, I'm then actually sending it to Whisper. And what Whisper is going to do is it's going to transcribe with timestamps everything that I have said during that time period. Then I'm going to pass that down to a language model to actually build me an outline. So once I've got the outline, I can go through, I can verify kind of what's in there, and it can make me the first draft of a script. So this is the workflow I've been building out while I'm waiting for a couple pieces of like parts to come in so I can get back to it too. And so far, it seems to have worked okay. And that Anthropic article was the one I used to test out this workflow right here. Whisper's going to make it too quiet. Oh, bad, Gumby, bad. But so far, this seems to actually be working. One of the things I've actually discovered is that instead of just sending the Whisper transcript to the LLM, I actually need to send links to all the relevant articles to it as well, so it can pull that information in. But so far, it seems to be working. This is the new workflow I'm going to be testing out, and hopefully it's going to let me churn out much cleaner, much more concise YouTube videos when I'm doing that. Because I do feel like it's extra lazy to, if I had something that was really interesting and it definitely needed something from the live stream, yeah, I would cut it from the live stream. But I don't want to do that. I would like to make nice quality videos that help people kind of get to the root of everything without the various side quests, as I call them, that we go through on the live stream. I get some people like that, probably not so much on a live stream, on a YouTube video versus a live stream. But this is what I've been working out the last couple days. That's what the PowerShell stuff I was working on was for, to help automate a few of those things. All right, let me look at something here real quick. I need to come back over to the states here. let's start from the ground up. So if we're going to send the entire exploit task up to this machine, I think what I want to do is we're going to go through and we're going to annotate everything in here. Like we did with this one for the initial access exploit. We're going to annotate everything that we have done because those annotations will be sent as part of this data structure to the system. So if you remember, when we did the output formatters here, let's see, exploit step list. You see how we have it's a list of strings in here. Wait, hold on, is that right? Hold on, what was the actual, I gotta remember. What was the data structure we actually sent to it? Oh, exploit step revisions in here. But here you can see, hey, this is actually what it's all expecting and the shape of the data. So if we come through and we annotate this here, then all those annotations are going to be sent as well. So that's what we're going to do first. So we're going to make this an annotated. And then we tell it what the data structure is. So it's a string and skip everything in the middle. And then we give it a description. So this is the, what do we say here? Actually, I don't want to call it a step. This is going to be an exploit, the exploit step. And then we'll do the same thing here. So we'll make this an annotated. And then same thing here. So this is the status, and this will be current status of this step. So new working validated failed. Same thing with the verdict here. So we're just going to come through and we're basically adding in this flavor text for the language model to get some additional context around what we're doing in here. Let's see. And then for the description, what do we want to put on this? We'll say the final verdict we'll say the final verdict of if the exploit task was successful. Actually, we could just say the final verdict of the exploit step. So this one will do the same thing. Annotated, this was an integer. Let's see. List array index value to show the current step. Oh, that should be an int, not an ing. There we go. Annotated. There we go. And then what do we want to say for the steps? This is a list of steps that, what do we say here? List of steps to complete the exploit task. Yeah. I'm going to go with ELP on that one. Hey man, what's going on? So what we're doing is we're working on a little AI hacking bot to go play hacking capture the flag games. So stuff like Try Hack Me or Hack the Box. And we're currently working on the exploit agent. So as it sits, we've got 3 of the 4 primary agents done. So we've got our recon and enumeration. They're fairly similar. They were really easy to knock out. The exploitation agent is proving to be a little bit more challenging. We had some cool data structures set up for it, but they turned out to be too rigid, and it was giving the language model a lot of trouble trying to understand and follow the structure. So what we're doing right now is we're reorganizing it to back it out and give it a little bit extra freedom. So you've got this fine line you want to walk whenever you're working with these language models, where if you don't give them enough freedom, they kind of get bogged down more or less in a bureaucracy, let's call it. And if you give them too much freedom, they just go off into la la land and do all sorts of stupid things. So we're trying to find out, where do we need to give it enough autonomy to operate well versus not enough and let it not operate, or do we give it too much? So we're bumping it up. It was a little too rigid. We're kicking it up a notch, and we're going to let it have a little bit more freedom when we're doing this. Part of the downside is, though, we have to go change the data structures and remap how they're getting passed to that language model when we're doing it. Hopefully, this will give it enough freedom to where it can somewhat easily go through all the steps it needs to do, including error corrections and revisions, and then as it runs through them, have the ability to then pass it back up to Stinger, which is our supervisor. Stinger doesn't do anything right now. We actually have 2 agents left we have to finish to get like the base model done, which is there's going to be a post-exploitation agent that's going to live right over here. And its job is to take the exploit from the exploit agent and then turn it into a full command and control connection using Mythic. So that's going to be the next one we're going to start hopefully this month. I'm really hoping. Exploit has taken us a lot of time on here. Hey, Frozen, what's up, brother? Happy Sunday, man. And then once PostX is done, then we need to actually come back up to Stinger and start putting some intelligence into it. Stinger's not doing anything right now. It's pretty much just processing pure code. It doesn't do any kind of language model calls, no intelligence or anything like that. But that's what we're working on right now. So we're taking these data structures that we've got here and we're annotating them right now, because we're going to send this entire data structure to the language model as a tool call, and not to actually go execute a function, but to tell it the shape of the data that we want back. So before, we were sending it small chunks of data, and it had enough to kind of work with it, but not in the structure we had laid out. It was a little too rigid. So now we're going to say, okay, now you get the full data, and then we'll see if it does anything weird after that. Do you have the things you previously did on YouTube? Yeah, man. There's actually an entire playlist up on the Blaise YouTube channel, and it's all live streams so far. Once I get some more of it done, I'll cut a video explaining what the actual system is like. But yeah, there's an entire list of live streams where we've gone through and we've devved on this and worked on it. We've been working on it since I think about February. And also the code is all up on GitHub. If you want to mess with it, it is on, see if I can find it. GitHub.com. It's on the BlaiseBits GitHub. If I can't type. I'm failing. Let's see. And then it's the repo is called HackBot, because I'm not really imaginative when it comes to naming. But up here, thanks, Guppy. Yeah, but up here's all the code. If you want to go take it, I push it after every live stream. All right, why is this thing not working now? I heard the alert, but why is it not? Now, why are you not working? Urgh, piece of crap. Well, thanks for coming online, man. I figured that was it. I recently changed my streaming setup too, so now it's split between 2 computers, and the mouse will not go to the other computer right now, which is incredibly suboptimal. Is this thing not running? Why is it doing this? You're killing me, Smalls. You're killing me, Smalls. All right. Hopefully I won't have to do anything on the streaming computer, because I currently can't get my mouse over to it. Let's see. All right, so we annotated this, the target IP. Let's annotate this one real quick. So all this annotation does is just lets us add a little bit of extra context to what we're doing in here. This will be the target's IP address. Right there. And then we already annotated the initial access exploit, so that is good. Okay, so we annotated all of these. Now the kicker here is we need to go through a little bit more. So these ones right here, like the exploit step, we want to go annotate that as well up here. which looks like we did except for this one. So, and the reason is because we're going to send all these nested data structures up to it when this happens. And when that happens, we want it to have as much context as possible for this. So the status would be the current status of the step. Actually, let me change this. That should be exploit task. Now, why is this one throwing a fit here? What's wrong with this? Oh, let me screw this over. What's wrong with this syntax here? Oh, it's because I'm missing a dot. There we go. Current status of the exploit step. Let's put that in there. There we go. So now this is all annotated. This is string, string, literal, string. This one is string, literal, literal, integer, exploit step. Okay, cool. So this is now the data structure we're going to send over to this guy, is this exploit step. So instead of binding this one, what we're going to do is we're going to bind exploit task, just like that. Now I'm just going to run this again real fast here. Let's see, where is exploits? Here we go. This is the one we just ran. So exploit kind of expand. Come on, there we go. Oh, that was not what I wanted to do. No. No. There we go. Load pickle, don't care about any of these. Exploit agent, validator, exploit agent, planner, step processor. Okay, I think from here, nope, that's update. So what I'm doing is I'm looking at all the various pieces of information we've kind of sent to it. Oh, why did you do that? No. It just completely caved on itself. There we go. So here, after the update happens, so we're down here in the loop. Let me bring this up here. So we're down here inside this loop. So what we're going to do is we're going to rerun it from this part using the same memory structure. Let me make sure it actually loaded up correctly. Okay, looks like it did. So we're going to basically we're going to time travel back a little bit, and we're going to rerun this. I don't think it liked that. Yeah, that didn't work. That's all right. We can just rerun the entire exploit task. So we'll make a new thread and we'll just run it from here. All right, so first thing you should do is get the web shell artifact, and then it should try and bork. It borked? Yeah, probably. Well, I know it's going to bork because we haven't changed exactly like what it's doing right now. Yeah, I was expecting it to break because we haven't gone through and modified what to do with the data that comes back. So what did it actually return, though? Because the main thing is I wanted to test this language model call right here. Task has been validated. Okay, cool. So what we should be able to look in here is current step 0. Here's our steps. You gonna let me copy all this? Hang on. Verdict exploitable. No. Okay, so that's definitely not what we want. It should not be changing the verdict on this yet. It should have just changed this one right here. So it did say validated. All right, cool. Let's go look at that real quick. Oh, what happened? Did you not grab all the data? Oh, you're killing me, Smalls. Come on. There we go. Change this to JSON. There we go. Much better. So here was step 0, right? This is step 0. Here's step 1. Yeah, we'll definitely need to go through and modify the prompt for this, because the prompt was originally used to working on a single step at a time. Now we're giving it the entire thing here. So what do we still need for the bot to be fully functional? So we still need to finish out the exploitation agent and then the PostX agent. And for PostX, the way I'm thinking to do that is we'll do it in a similar fashion to what we've got with the exploitation agent. Yeah, so we still got to work on PostX. But for the C2, which is going to be Mythic, right? I think what we're going to do is build this into a special agent. So that's going to be a special agent here. And then that's going to plug down into, take that back. The special agent is then going to plug into PostX down here. PostX. Right here. So that way it'll be able to look at it. In fact, you just reminded me of something. I had a thought the other day, which is how we're tracking the hosts in here. Let me see. Yeah, there's one thing we don't have that we'll need to expand. It's not critical right now, but in the host, where we're actually tracking the individual hosts we see on the network, we'll need to add something in addition to this. From the initial access exploit, we'll also want to add a C2 connection. So it'll be something that we can then pass over to whatever C2 we want. We're going to do Mythic. I want to make it scalable enough that if somebody says, hey, I want to let the PostX agent use Sliver, cool beans, you just go make your own Sliver C2 agent or special agent, and then you slot it right in. It should work. But there's one more thing we're going to have to add to this, which is after the initial access exploit, we're going to have to come in and add the C2 connection. So we'll have information about the metadata that should be generic enough to let it target multiple C2s, but also specific enough to work well with those C2s. So we'll have to figure out what the shape of that data is going to be like. All right, so the cool thing is it is bringing back the entire exploit task, but the prompt is completely unoptimized for this. So hold on to your butts because we're about to go do some prompt engineering here. All right, so here's the system prompt. This is the main thing we're going to have to modify in here. So we told it, you're a world-class exploit analyzer. Use the following criteria to determine the values to call the exploit step status tool. Okay, that is incorrect right off the bat, which is we're going to change that to our exploit task. And instead to call it, we're going to say to populate data structure. There we go. So given the exploit task, analyze the output to determine the status of the task. Ooh, let's think about this. So from the data we sent it, yeah, I think we're going to have to modify this a bit. Yep, that's what we're going to have to do that right here. let me look at one more thing real quick. So we can see the actual structure of the data that we send to it. So here is all the information that we send. And you see, like, we send a type and a description for each of those fields. That's what that annotation actually did. So it gave us all this various pieces of information. And then down here, since the steps are a nested data structure, we have additional information about them in here. Would it be easier just to whip it all and redo it? I mean, we could whip it. Whip it good. I know you meant wipe, but you said whip, so I'm going to go with whip. Yeah, I think what we could do is... Some of this is really good, though. Here's what I'm... Actually, yeah, I think you've got the right idea. Let's take this and let's go bring it over to something with a little bit easier to edit text in here. And then let's do some modifications. Let's take this out. And what do we want to find? Let's switch to regex mode. I want you to find white space that is repeated. Repeated 2 or more times. I don't know. I'm going to say 2 to 50. I forget what the exact regex is here. And that's at the start of the string. There we go. Take all that, nuke it off. There we go. Nice. All right. Let's take all that out. And then what we're going to do is take this off of JSON. We're just going to do plain text. There we go. So we'll use this to kind of get everything that we want. Let's take this kind of line by line and reconstruct the new one here. So we do want it to access that. And in fact, I'm just going to drop this right here. So we're going to do that to populate the exploit task data structure. Boop. It's a lot of stuff to tell the bot that it didn't know if it was complicating things. It is a lot of stuff to tell the bot. So we will need to go through, and there's certain pieces in here that I do want to keep. So that's why we're kind of reconstructing the new one down here. In fact, let's put a little delimiter for us. And let's go ahead and work it. Like, I think working it from scratch is probably the right call. So let's think about everything we want to give it. We do want to give it the information for the current step, right? I really wish the iPad was working in here, so I could draw clean pictures instead of this. So what's the information we want to give it? We do want to give it whatever's happening. We're going to give it the exploit task, right? So it's going to get the full task. We're also going to give it information about the current step that's being worked on. And then we're also going to give it the output, right? We want to give it the output of everything that's happened with that, which this is actually going to be subsumed up into the exploit task, so we don't need to send the output directly. I think we want to send this entire step data structure. So we'll send an entire step object along with it, because what it can then do is it can use that to kind of map back and forth between these two for when it does the revisions. And then what we'll need to do is we'll need to line out each of the fields and give it instructions on how to handle each field for the exploit task. Yeah, I think that will work. Yeah, let's start with that approach right here. So we'll say so let's copy this line and we'll go modify it. So we'll say given the exploit step, and we're going to change this to step. Actually, we can even just take this out. We're going to say, we'll say analyze the step to determine the status of the task, and then what's the structure of the exploit step? Do I have it in here? I do. So this is not the current structure. It's a little bit different. We do have the scratch pad. This part is gone. We took all that out. So we have our scratchpad string, and then we have the step task and the literal in here. And this has also already been annotated, so we're good there. Annotate. Good. So then what we want to do is we want to tell it, we're going to send it the entire step object and then the entire task. So this will be, it'll see overlapping data between the two, which is totally fine. So we'll say analyze the step and determine the status. Determine the status. What do we say? Based on the information in the scratchpad. Yeah. I'm going to make this whole thing in Markdown right here. Let me think about this, actually. Yeah, we'll just do it like that. So the following criteria, use the following criteria to determine the values. I'm going to change this. One thing I've noticed is that when you're working with language models, if you use a lot of passive voice, it loses information, which makes sense if you think about how it's reading the information from front to back. So we're going to try and make this more passive voice. We're going to say for populating the exploit data structure. Yeah, so analyze the step and determine the status based on the information in the scratchpad. I'm actually going to backtick this to make it stand out a little bit more, like we're doing Markdown in here. Okay, so we've got the step object in there. The very last thing we're going to do is we're going to send it that other information. Let's see. So when determining the exploit step status value. Okay, this is incorrect. Let's see. We're going to say step value. Hey, 10X Engineer. Thanks for coming online, man. Welcome in. I hope you're having a great Sunday. One day, I hope to just be like a 1.5x engineer. Then again, engineering's not my thing. I work as a professional penetration tester and red teamer. So, but I would still like to be better at it. That was part of the reason why we started this project, was I could learn how to write code better. Makes sense, but happy Monday then. Thanks, man. Dude, this is what I do day in and day out. I have a blast with it. All right. So we've got the exploit steps happening for the agent. So we're going to tell it when it's determining the step status value, only consider the information from, this is not going to be the output. This will be from Scratchpad here. Boop, just like that.
Welcome, agent.
Oh, dude, thanks for coming online. Pop in your first shell. Oh, let's see here. I appreciate all that, guys. Actually, y'all, from supporting the stream, that's how I was able to get everything back up and running. So, I mean, I don't care about talking about this, but the stream usually makes about $75 to, on a really good month, like $200 a month. So not too shabby. And that all just goes into its own bank account. So when I had the massive crash out on the desktop and I was working really hard to salvage everything, I had that computer limping along because I've got a very extensive OBS setup on that computer. And I was deathly afraid of losing it. So I limped that computer along for as long as I could. And then with the money that the stream was making, I was able to set up the actual dedicated streaming computer that I can't currently access because it is being a jerk. Urgh. Anyway. If only Jocko supported the stream. I know, right? But yeah, so that's why everything's been kind of working really well. I actually picked up a new toy, not from BlaiseBit's money, but just from my property.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
We have tried turning it off and on again. Unfortunately, it is not playing well. So in the spirit of trying to make the better YouTube videos, Elgato actually had a sale on these guys.
I'm back, baby.
So this guy is really cool. It's a teleprompter. And if you have, depending on what kind of camera you've got, you can attach it to different lenses. Actually, I'm just going to take my webcam and stick it here in the back of it. And this is what I'm going to be using to start modifying or not modifying. What I'm going to start using to record the YouTube videos that are going to be dedicated. So as it goes through that workflow to generate my raw draft of the script, I'll go through and edit it. And once it's good, I can throw it up onto this guy and actually do the recording, hopefully really quickly with it. The side benefit is on this screen right here, I can put all of the live stream chat. So instead of me having to look down here, this is me looking at the live stream chat. It's going to be dead on the camera. So that was my Christmas present to myself. Oh, it's because I added a filter, Chris, to the redeems where if I'm talking, it quiets them a little bit. It ducks the volume down. So, because you're going to be reading a script, you're now Hollywood? I guess so, man. Nah, I don't want to be Hollywood. I just want to be dude doing fun stuff in his office. Oh, wait, this wasn't where we were. We were working over here. All right. So we're talking about, so what we're doing right now, anybody who just hopped in, we're working on the prompt that's actually going to be used for revising the errors we come across in the exploitation agent. All right, what do we have here? So we say we're determining the step status value. Only consider information from the scratch pad. Yep. I think we can take this and just reuse this part right here. At least if I could just drop this in place, it doesn't make sense. I had some of these lines broken up to make them a little bit more readable, but I didn't think about it. There we go. So let's do this. So when determining the create initial access exploit to the target, the task output should be complete and functional code or a structured tool call with the name and args. Okay, let me redo this one. Task validity. The output, let's see. There we go. The scratch pad should be complete and functional code or a structured tool call. Yep. Think step by step when performing the analysis. Initial access exploits may contain placeholder values like command. That's considered, this is to be considered valid. I'm going to check that out. Which is to be considered valid. Wordsmithing it a bit here. Then we tell it check, but in this case, it's not the output here. Check this step, scratch pad. Why can't I type? Come on, there we go. There we go. So we'll say check the step scratch pad to determine if remote code execution has been achieved. And then we define remote code execution so it knows what it is doing. And what was our definition for this? The ability for arbitrary supplied code or commands to run inside the target environment, client or server, producing observable effects such as outbound network callbacks, file or process changes, or DOM script actions. Okay, perfect. So we're building an AI exploit agent? Yeah, man. So actually we're building something basically to duplicate the entire pen test workflow, but we're targeting it to work with things like CTFs, because a larger environment is much more difficult. So I think eventually we can scale it up to that. I'm building it with the idea that it will be able to scale up to a multi-network environment. There's guys already doing that. I think that's really cool. I wanted to build my own. So this is the current state of everything right here. So this is the main graph as things happen. So we've got our user input comes in, it kind of initializes everything. We give it, right now we give it a lot of information because Stinger doesn't know how to think yet. It's a very dumb supervisor. But what it's doing is the initializer kind of builds the base set of tasks that we want it to accomplish. And then Stinger just hands them off to whatever the respective primary agent is. So recon and enumeration, they're good right now. They're in a minimally viable product state. The exploitation agent is the one we're currently working on. And then once exploit's done, we're going to add a fourth one over here for post-exploitation. So exploit's whole job is to find and exploit some vulnerability on the system, and then return what we're calling an initial access exploit. That initial access exploit is then going to be handed off to the post-exploitation agent to upgrade that to a full command and control interaction. And so the post-ex agent is going to take us quite a bit of time to build because we're going to try and build it to use Mythic C2. And then once that is kind of up and running and it can get root on the system, so this gets us our basic user access, right? Post-ex job is going to be to actually go in and root the system. And then once that's done, we're going to finish up the Stinger agent here to actually make it intelligent. So right now we give it a lot of breadcrumbs that says, this is what I want you to do. In fact, here, let me just show you. So if I come up here, this is what our initializer does. We give it all this information like, hey, scan the target to find out what ports are open, what version of Apache is running, what's running on 22. We tell it straight up, use GoBuster to find some information. And then it's returning this all back as structured data. Eventually, this node up here, this initializer node, is going to go away and it's just going to be straight user input down to Stinger. And there will be another arrow for Stinger to pass information back up to user input. So that way we can have a human in the loop type interaction. So if it hits a problem, we can go through and help guide it. But that's a little bit ways down the line. That's going to be after we actually fix the Stinger agent here. It's a whole CTF just to do HackBot, right? It feels like it, bro. I'm having a ton of fun with this project, though. As frustrating as some of the little bits and pieces are, it's been a lot of fun to work on. Yeah, I've enjoyed the heck out of it, 10x. For the most part, the prompts in the system are very bare, and we're only updating the prompts when we see that there's an issue that we need to address. Obviously, exploitation had the most issues because it's got a pretty extensive prompt happening here. But now that we've changed how the data is flowing and how it's being handled and what things are expected of the revisor, this is what this one is, just for the revisor node. We have to come through, we got to completely rewrite it, which sucks. I don't really like prompt engineering, but I get the importance of it. All right, so we defined. I'm actually going to break this up into two separate lines right here. There we go. Yeah. That should be good. We're going to break up our definitions. That way, if we need all the definitions done, we can. And in fact, I want to take these and kind of just, I'm going to move them up. So we're going to have a definitions section here. And in fact, I want to do one more thing. Since we're doing this all kind of in Markdown, we're going to call this, we're going to tell it this is its role to play. And then definitions here, we'll do this, and then this is also going to be like a top level one right here. We'll have our definitions, and then we're going to have our instructions after this. So we'll put another one in here. Let's take that, put that in. Okay, there we go. That should be good. So then we're going to have a list of our instructions. So we're going to try and make this more or less a pseudo markdown. I read it backwards. I probably did. All right, so we already told it to check the step for the scratch pad. Let's see. There's our definition. You must always call the exploit step status tool. Yes, we do want that, except it's not going to be exploit step status. And this one is actually going to go first. It's going to be the exploit. And we're going to say return the exploit step data right here. Now, by giving it the extra freedom to modify the entire task, we're also giving it the freedom to bork the entire task. But we're going to see if we can get it to think a little bit coherently about this. What's the execution environment for the agent? It's very simple. We're actually just testing it against TryHackMe's RootMe box. This one is super old, and there's a link to it if you want it. It's a real simple PHP web shell, and you have to bypass a file extension limitation. Not a big deal. And then to go from user to root, there's a Python exploit in there. Real simple. So this was the most basic, simple example that I could come up with. Add time. Oh yeah, thank you for the reminder. You better not have logged me out. I literally just logged in before the stream started. It is due to expire in 1 hour. I guess it's too close to 1 hour. I guess it was rounding the time left up. Jeez. I like TryHackMe, but their UI has some quirks to it. So another thing we're actually using with this is, let me bring that up, is for our tooling server, we're using something called RoboPages in here. So RoboPages allows us to define tools as YAML files, and then we can expose functions to that and have them execute inside dedicated Docker containers. So that's what the browser agent does. It spins up an entire Playwright MCP Docker container, and that's how we execute everything for the browser, for it to go through and like navigate to the website and interact with it. It's all done through the browser agent. But then anything else that we want to, we can just go define, okay, here's your Docker container, and we can tell it, go pull one from Docker Hub, or here's a Docker file, go build the container. And we have everything in its nice little pristine execution environment. It's really cool. Hey, thanks, Jordan. Appreciate it, man. Dude, I totally get people hopping in and lurking and kind of co-working. That's what I do a lot on Twitch, man. I totally get that. All right, let's hop back into here for our... Check the step scratchpad to determine if remote code execution has been achieved. Okay, so we're down there. We already got this part. Let's see. Yeah, let's put that in here. So tasks that nope, not there. Tasks that require artifacts should be file system paths. Excellent. I'm going to grab these three and we'll work on them individually. Let's see. And in fact, I'm going to change this. Instead of tasks, we're going to say steps. There we go. So if the step status is validated, leave the revision fields blank. Oh, actually, we don't need that because we're not actually having it return a revision field. Actually, I do want to leave this alone. I do want to modify this. So if the step status is validated, we're going to tell it. We're going to tell it to. We'll say, then leave the step. We'll say update the step status. We'll say update the update only the step status field. There we go. I had put that step in there, but I guess we can leave it there. We can take that out. Step that requires artifacts should be file system paths. That's good. If the step status is failed, oh, this shouldn't be failed. Because we don't want the step status to be failed. That was a definition from the revision that we're doing in here. What we want instead is we come to states. Where's our exploit step? Here it is. Actually, let's do this. If the step completed successfully, we'll say set the status field to validated, and then update only the step status. Actually, yeah, let's mod this. If the step completed successfully, update only the step status field to completed. Boom, we'll do it just like that. And if the step did not complete successfully, friendly reminder, in the event of an apocalypse, open source is our only hope. True. Part of the reason why this is all open source. So if anybody wants to go mess around with the code, you're more than welcome to. Be aware, I break it pretty much nightly. By the way, the HackBot repo is purely a development repo. Once I get the rest of the agents kind of done and they're mostly working, I will spin up a new repo that's going to be a little bit cleaner and we'll have proper like branching and feature branches and everything like that. And I'll probably call that Stinger AI as an homage to Night Team 4, the video game. By the way, not sponsored by Jocko yet. One day, Jocko. One day. Hey, Bobby. What's up, bro? What's up, dude? Happy Sunday. Actually, I think I can just combine these into one. Here, now that I'm thinking about it. Otherwise, provide a revised task. I think it's step task in here. That corrects for the error or blockage. We'll say analyze the step scratchpad. So for any historical attempts to avoid trying previously failed revisions, I'm going to add a new one in here. Let's see. If a new step is required, yeah, we'll say that. So if a new step is required, create a new exploit step. Hold on, before I tell it that, let me make sure It should be getting that information as part of the language model call. Let's double check real quick. No, that's the one. It should be this trace here. So we give it the exploit task. And then for our steps, we give it this structure right here. I wonder if I should rename that. I wonder if I should rename that to exploit steps instead of just steps in here. So it has a way to basically bind all those vectors together. Because here's what's happening. So we have a steps field here in the exploit task, right? So there's steps right there. And it's a list of the exploit steps. But what it did is it actually did not send that this is named an exploit step field. What it did is it came through and said, okay, I'm just going to send you what the structure of the exploit step is. All right, I think instead that let's leave out this, but create a new, what does it create a new step? Insert it into the we'll say exploit task. Steps list in the appropriate location. Appropriate order to overcome the blockage. There we go. Hopefully that will work. Let's see, what else do we have in here? So this was all previous information. Yeah, this is what we were just looking at, basically, setting it to true. For example, actually, I love these examples in here. So let's go use these examples. Like perform a request to get a new CSRF token. I like that. We drop these in. We'll do one more in here. What's this? We'll say, for example. Oop, and then what we'll do is we'll just drop these all in here. There we go. So if a new step is required, create a new step and insert it into the exploit task steps list in the appropriate order to overcome the blockage. So for example, if we need to rename a file before uploading, if a file needs to be recompiled before executing, or if we need to perform a new request to get a new CSRF token. Excellent. All right. What else do we have in here? We do need to put this in because we noticed that at least with Claude 3.7, what happened is a lot of the text had placeholders in there and it didn't like the placeholders. Step may contain placeholder text. I think that was step task. Was that it? Was our exploit step? Yeah. So the step task may contain placeholder text. These should not be considered hard requirements for completion. I think I want to take this and actually move this up. Because we had another section here where we had this all kind of discussed in here. Yeah, let's put that right here. So the step task may contain placeholder text, that's fine. If a new step is required, I'm gonna say if a new step is required to be run prior to the current step, there you go. Then create a new step and insert it into the exploit task. Steps list in the appropriate order to overcome the blockage. And we give it examples right there. Okay, cool. Oh, thank you. Actually, you know what? Not only did I need the new line, I needed to close it. Try running the code on a smart fridge. Get out. Just get out, Caffeine. Just be gone. What was funny about the whole smart fridge thing is it did technically run on the smart fridge. However, really what it was doing was screencasting from that. So that was the funny part. So it wasn't technically running on the smart fridge, even though I have no doubt it could have run on there. However, the funnier part was after that whole thing with pirate software and it was running on the smart fridge, the guy did it at a Lowe's, right? It caused Lowe's to like go completely change how they had their appliance displays set up and lock them down more because of that event. Oh, I do want this. This is information about how to do the revisions. So if we're going to do a revision, we want it to do... Actually, there's another step I think I want to add into, like another instruction. So we tell it only consider the information in the scratch pad. It's all right, Caffeine. I'm an old school meme lord, so whenever people make those references, I get them. Remember when memes were funny? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Analyze the step to determine the status based on the information in the scratch pad. When determining the steps, actually, hold on. I just noticed that we've got this back. We have this kind of. This is duplicated. I'm going to take that one out because it's a bit duplicated in here. So we have a special case for the initial access exploit. I think what I want to do is bring this down here because I want this to be kind of at the end because the initial access exploit is like one of the last things we do. Yeah, I think that's fine. We'll leave that down there for now. Only consider the information in the scratch pad. Check the step scratch pad to determine if remote code execution has been achieved. I need to actually add another instruction to this. Since it's modifying the entire thing, what we want to do is come in here, we'll say... Didn't we have a definition for remote code execution? Oh, we did. The definition's up here. Let me bust this up a little bit while we're wordsmithing it so I can see what's happening here. All right. And I'm going to put actually this in here so I can kind of reference that. If RCE is observed, we'll say mark all remaining I'm going to say, yeah, mark the current step as completed. Ooh. How do I want to do this? Because we want it to mark all the rest as skipped in there, except the last two. You know, the hardest part of this caffeine would be getting Docker to run on the smart fridge. Though technically, Since this is all Python, you could probably get it to work on a smart fridge. But you probably have to have the robo pages and the Docker on a different system. How do I want to say this? I'm trying to think how to word this. Basically, mark everything except the last two steps. Mark the current step is completed, and yeah. Let's do this, and then what we'll say is say do the following, and then what we'll do is we'll bust this out into its own sub list here. So we'll say mark the current step as completed, and then we'll say mark all the remaining steps as skipped. I'm gonna double dip on this one. Yeah, we're gonna be real explicit with this, except the last two. And then actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go grab those lists out of here real quick. Mark all the remaining tasks as skipped except the last two. Mark the create initial access exploit step as working. Yeah, we'll do that. And then, so we're gonna get real explicit with it here. And we'll say verify is we'll backtick this step as new, just like that. So what we're doing is we're telling it, hey, all of these should be just good right here. Yeah, so this is basically our early RCE check. We're gonna let it handle it. So we'll go comment out all the early RCE checks we did before. And what we'll do is we'll create the initial access exploit for the target and mark the remaining steps as skipped except for the last two. Mark the create initial access exploit as working, and then mark the previously generated initial access, verify the previously generated initial access exploit. This is horrible. Why did I word it like this? Actually, I will leave that in there. Let me copy this and go update that in the code as well, where we inject these two. Which that should be up in the planner. Yeah, here we go. There we go. Verify the previously generated initial access exploit. Yeah, there we go. All right, let me go back down to the revisor here where we're working. Because after we get this done, we're changing all these placeholders, so then we're going to need to come restructure all this data here. So you'll have a hacking tool and something to keep your beer cold. Nice. Oh, sorry, I missed your previous message. Just make a custom OS on the smart fridge and create your own cloud infrastructure, and that would handle all your network and you got in the WAN. Just an idea. I could, you know? We could do that. There we go. We'll say mark that as new. All right, what else did we have up here that we might want to bring down? We already got this, that they should contain placeholder text. That's fine. Actually, I think for this part right here, we're going to put this under a second section here. Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to copy this line. I'm going to bring it down here. So what I want to say, I want to say did not complete successfully. I guess I could just do that. Let's see. So if the step did not complete successfully, we'll say use the following criteria. There we go. Use the following criteria. I can't talk. To update the steps. Yeah, we'll do that. Actually, I do want that. Let's see. We'll say provide a revised step task that corrects the step or for the error or blockage. I'm going to take this out right here. I'm going to say if a new step is required to be run prior to the current step, create a new step and insert it into the exploit task steps list in the appropriate order to overcome the blockage. For example. And yeah, here's actually where I'm going to put the various pieces of this right here. Yeah, I'm going to take all of that. Oop, I didn't mean to cut it. Just meant to copy it. There we go. Revisions must be single atomic instructions, meaning one indivisible action without alternatives, combinations, or multiple steps. Strictly prohibit compound statements in the revision field. Never suggest multiple options or methods in one revision. Explicitly forbidden. Do not use words like or, and, then, also, including, or any phrasing that implies more than one action. And then, I tell you what, let's bring this in. Let's say these are going to be our examples. All the wordsmithing. I hate this part, but it is crucial. Especially when you think about this is what all these guys are working with, is what you're giving it in the prompt. Valid revision. Say. And then we'll do the same thing here. We'll say invalid revision. if multiple ideas exist, select only the single most promising atomic revision based on the blockage analysis. Do not combine them. Enforce this by self-reviewing your revision before output. Confirm it describes exactly one action with no connectors or alternatives. Yeah, awesome. I think that actually might do us. Cool. Hey, okay. We just recently updated HackBot from Claude 3.7 to Claude 4.5. Claude Sonnet. So, and it is going to be chunky prompt when it's all said and done. Now, here's a kind of an example of it, but it's really bigger than this because we're sending a very large tool call to it. Let's see. So we're sending all of this information to it, plus that entire system prompt, which this is the old version. We're working on the new version. And then we're sending a lot of human information to it as well. However, you gotta think, yeah, this is a lot of data that we're sending to it, but it's not a huge amount of data compared to the context window of Claude 4.5. Let me see, what is it? Claude, what is Claude using? Claude 4.5 Sonnet context window. Let's see what it's using right now. Love the LangSmith rep. Thanks, man. Dude, I like LangSmith. It's been working great for me, especially for the initial testing, because for the testing of it, I have not built any kind of user interface. We're doing all of the testing explicitly through LangSmith, and that's been super helpful. Let's see, where's the context? So Sonnet has a 200K context window to it right here. Let's see if I can get an idea of how much we're actually sending to it. So for example, just this section right here, that's only 3,500 characters right there, right? So we're barely at 1% of the context from the system prompt. So I'd say we're not even going to creep above 10% realistically for the entire thing. And as long as you're not above 50%, you don't have to worry about context blind spots, really. So I think we're going to be good on the context length of it. I like to use LangFuse over LangSmith. Check that out, actually. Because I do like LangSmith, but I'm not married to any particular one of these. LangFuse. Trace evals and prompt management and metrics to debug your applications. Cool. Ooh, very cool. Nice. I do like this. One of the benefits we do have with using LangChain and LangSmith, LangChain, LangGraph, and LangSmith is they all do interop very well. However, I'm also not married to LangChain and I'm not married to LangGraph. Once we get, let me come back over here. Once we get the post-exploitation agent done and Stinger, everything's going to basically be on pause. And then we're going to go back and we're going to clean up code and consider different frameworks. So far, LangSmith and LangGraph and LangChain have been working just fine. So I don't foresee changing it, but it is something I feel like I need to do for completeness sake. Oh, it integrates with LangGraph natively out of the box? Nice. Very nice. I think actually the next update I'm probably going to make is, right now, everything about the language model, where is it? Here we go, is all set up in this configuration.py. And so it's directly importing chat Anthropic. But what I'm thinking I'm going to do here is actually build in either Open Router. I might just build an Open Router because I think it will work. I've got a sponsor that's going to be hooking me up with access to Claude on their Bedrock instance. So the great thing about that is I don't have to worry so much about token management. We've only spent $100 in tokens since February when we've been testing this. It's been running great. With the new Bedrock instance, they're going to be giving me $100 a month to test this. So a lot beefier budget, let's call it. I use Bedrock for my plot. I have did it for work. I have used Bedrock for that, and I do like it. I think it works really well, especially with having like a proxy in place where you can more easily manage it than instead of just calling Bedrock directly from your code. It works so well, especially since everything's using pretty much the API standard set up by OpenAI. Makes it super nice. All right, I think this will work. One of the future updates I also want to make is all the prompts I want to kick out of the prompts.py and actually have imports. And so all the prompts will go into their own folder, and they'll just be markdown files that we can bring in and import. I think that will be a more scalable solution also in the future. Yeah, I'm all in on LangGraph, at least for this part of the whole experiment, for this testing. And pretty much the only reason I chose that is because it's what I had the most experience with. All right, let's take this. You gonna scroll? Scroll for me. There we go. Yep, I got a typo there. That's fine. Let me bring this over real fast. Actually, let me bring this back up here. I'm just going to indent these to try and make it a little bit more readable. Close enough. Close enough for government work. All right. So there is our new and improved prompt right there. Hopefully that should let us do this. But actually, I forgot. I need to go through and modify what we're doing in here. So we don't have our task anymore. What we're going to send it is we're going to send it the step. So this should be step right here in our little faux XML. And we're going to call this our step right there. We're not worried about output. We're not worried about context. And this should be, I'm going to call this our exploit task. Just like this. There we go. Because I think that was the way we decided to do this. Let me pull up the ever sophisticated notepad. Yeah, we were just going to send the exploit task and the explicit step that was done. So this is basically we're duplicating information. But what I'm hoping is by sending this, it's going to directly allow it to map in that vector space all the information we sent to it to what is occurring in the overall task here. One thing I just realized we did not do is we did not give it any instructions on how to update the exploit task in here. That's okay. I'm going to let that just be for now. Have I switched to LangChain V1? I have not yet. No. I know there's issues with it. One of my coworkers was also building something using LangChain, and he said the intended behavior for V1 was way different. So no, I haven't bitten that bullet yet. I'm pretty much just letting as much of the code lie where it is right now. And then once I get the supervisor agent done, then that's going to be part of the big update. Like, okay, we're going to update the libraries. We're going to bring everything up to current standards and look at, do we switch frameworks? Do we need to start doing certain modifications? Everything in that area. Oh, it let me add time earlier, Gumby. Let me refresh just to make sure. Yeah. So we have enough to get us through the rest of the stream. My nose is itching. You just recently became a LangChain ambassador? Oh, that's cool. I hang out in the LangChain, what was it, Slack channel? but or the Slack org, whatever it's called, the server. But I don't really post too much on there. How did I misspell observed in here? There we go. Do I have any more spelling errors in this? Let me see. I don't think so. I would actually prefer to skip this song, except I can't get to the streaming computer. Which is going to make turning the stream off at the end of the night really interesting. Come to think of it. I'll have to go... I'll figure it out. Okay, so we have our steps. We have our exploit steps in here. Actually, I'm going to change this to exploit task. That. I'm going to put one more thing in here. So this would be provided in the exploit task. No, I don't like the way this is. Let me see. Use the following criteria to determine... following criteria to determine the values for populating the... I'm going to say updating. Information in exploit task to return as exploit task data. Data structure. There we go. Boom, there we go. So there we go. So now we have an explicit mapping to the exploit task. We already have an explicit mapping to the individual step we're working on. So now what we need to do is come over here and modify all of this information. So this right here is going to be our step value, which this should be our step, like that, our step task. No, not our step task. I take that back. We want the entire exploit step, just like that. And then down here, we want our exploit task value to be, I know I broke that out earlier. Yeah, this one right here. Boop, just like that. So we've got some unused variables in here. Not such a big deal. So like, for example, this right here, let me just comment that out because we're not using the context anymore. Thanks, okay, I appreciate it, man. Dude, like I said, I've been having such a fun time with this project and trying to think through the solutions, and especially since it's really odd because it's non-deterministic code, right? It's probabilistic whenever you're dealing with the language model. So the issue we just are trying to overcome with this little overhaul you're watching is we previously had a set of tasks in here, and then those tasks had a list of exploit steps that it needed to do to get onto the box. And those exploit steps, it was a really rigid structure, and it was throwing the language model for a big loop when this happened. So what we've done is we've kind of modified it, and we're giving the language model this entire data structure now, and we're giving it a key piece to analyze. And when it's done, we want it to return this entire data structure back to us. So this is essentially right here. This is our output right here. So that's what I need to get the iPad set back up. So that's our output, and this is going to be more or less our input. But really, this is our input and our output together. All this could be made easier with the LangChain v1 to do middleware. I'm sure it could, man. But like I said, I didn't want perfection to be the enemy of good. So that's what I said. Eventually we are gonna go look at that. We're gonna say, okay, where's this happening? But I have a defined time at which I'm gonna put that in. Input. All right. I know it's gonna break whenever I run this, but I'm gonna go ahead and run it again. So let's run it from scratch here. And okay, since you're so familiar with this, after this run finishes, I'm going to show you a very dirty little hack that I put in and get your opinion on it, because I know it's dirty, but it was the simplest solution I could think to make testing this agent easier. Okay, so it died in here. So what we're doing is we're running all this in the parent graph typically when we start seeding it. And the reason for this is because when we spin up the new test box, we get a new IP every time. So I'll do what I call a seed run to kind of get everything set up. So we'll start from here, we'll seed it with some initial information, and with an updated IP address, it connects to it over the VPN and does all the recon and enumeration, and it gets down to exploitation. So here in the exploit agent, what I have it do is the very first node it hits is a pickle node. And this pickle node looks at the state table and sees, is it populated? If so, save it as a pickle onto disk. If it's not populated, if we just send it a blank state table, then it loads the pickle from the disk. So this is how I've been getting around just running the exploit graph over and over and over again with populated data. Yeah, it's a massive dill. No sweet pickles here. Those are an abomination. So eventually this will go away as well, this load pickle. I'll probably have the state actually saved to like a database where you could go through and you could do various runs of it. But right now, everything's just being tracked in memory. So this was the simplest solution I could think of with my complete scrub tier development skills to get it where I could just run the exploit agent by itself without having to go through the entire graph. All right, let's go see where this one failed real fast. Probably failed down on the revisor. That's what I'm expecting. Okay, so where did we fail in the revisor? Let's take a look at what we got in and out. I already saw one error because it blipped by real fast. Let's look at the input here, actually. So let me look at something real quick. There's our tasks. Let me go down to the actual exploit task, which is number 5. Okay. So our status is working. And then we have our verdict. Okay. I should probably let the verdict, I should say leave the verdict as null for now. So that's one update we need to do. The verdict should be null because I just saw that it returned the verdict down here. We come all the way down here. The verdict, it said non-exploitable. I was like, we haven't gotten to that part yet. And look at the task. It changed the task right here. Dang it. Dang it. Dang it, Bobby. Yeah, pretty much replay it after the last successful one. So I don't want to run the entire graph from here. I could do that, but it gets kind of expensive after a while because the recon and enumeration data is not going to change. The whole idea of the exploitation agent here was to give it enough flexibility where it could try exploits and fail. So it might look at all the data collected from recon and enumeration and say, I think there are 3 ways to go exploit this system, and let it try and fail until it finds one or it panics out and asks the user what to do. So inside the exploit graph here, this is what I did. So if I run it with a blank state, it just loads the last time it passed by this node from whatever we stored on disk. I should get CEUs for watching the stream. That's right, Griffith. That's right. It's exactly right. I would love to see somebody put that on their CISSP. I watched Blaise Bits build a hacking bot. It would be especially funny because I actually just let my CISSP lapse. I don't need it. It was good to have for a long time, but honestly, I don't plan on moving out of offensive security. I like working in offensive security, so I decided to just let my CISSP go. I know, okay, it's pretty jank, but it works. So if it's stupid and it works, it's not stupid. Let me see here. So we need to go add in a couple other... Let me look at something real quick. Let me look at the exploit task data structure real quick. I don't know if we necessarily need this verdict in here. We could take this status here. Oh wait, that's the task. Hang on. That's the... Yeah, this is the exploit task right here. Here's our verdict. What if we rolled these into one? So we could say it's new, it's working, it's validated. We could say new, working, exploitable, non-exploitable. Actually, yeah, I think that would be a better situation to do here. Let's take out the verdict and let's roll it up into the status. So new, working, validated, failed. I'm going to actually just combine these into this list right here. Current status of the exploit task. It could be exploitable, non-exploitable, failed. Okay, and then we do need to make another update to the prompt up here. To Bob, if you're in the chat, I know you're probably busy. I just want you to know I do appreciate the new background music. Since you're not chasing perfection, this is fine what you have since it's working. But if you try to do it legitimately, check out the checkpointing system in LangGraph. It's on my to-do list. So it gives you exactly what you're looking for, and you can add a thread ID, and you can supply a checkpoint ID to start the graph from there. So it'll pick up the prior state and replay the nodes that you want. On my to-do list. I have been meaning to go work on that. However, a lot of times we do have to go through and do this. If I get to a certain spot where I need to make a modification, we're typically doing it live, so I can come up to the thread in particular and then just rerun it from there. Alfred, what's up, brother? Happy Sunday, man. This is not correct. That should be correct. There we go. Let me see if there's anything else in here. Monday for you? Oh no, it's Monday for so many folks. It's still Sunday here in the States. I'm in Texas, so but happy Monday. Happy Monday. I get so many folks that come in and watch from across the Atlantic over there, and I love it. I'm so excited every time someone pops in from over there. Finland! Nice. I have not had anybody pop in from Finland that they've admitted to anyway. So, welcome in, man. Shout out from North Carolina. I love it. Let's see. I kind of want to rerun this. Let me see if it will still let me rerun this from here. Let's see if it'll work. Oh, okay. Thanks for hopping in, man. Thanks for coming online. Okay, I know it's good. I knew it was going to fail again. I just wanted to see what it did here at the very end. Oh, good. It did just run the revisor. I think it, since we're using the memory check pointer, I think it only keeps it in for 10 minutes. Okay, good. So it kept the statuses working. Excellent. Current step should be 1 because it should have validated step 0. It validated that it got the web shell artifact. Boom. Excellent. Ooh, daddy likes. This is looking good so far. Excellent. I think I need to clean this up, though, a bit. The information we're dropping into the scratch pad, I don't want this information here. I want this to almost be like a running dialogue. Actually, I guess it works okay. We could clean this up and optimize it a little bit more, but you know what? It's working well enough. Now, one thing we don't currently have is there was, in the steps, we don't have anything to track how many times it tried a step, right? So we need something that'll eventually allow us to do this. Previously, when we had a list tracking the inputs and outputs, and where there were one-to-one correlated lists, it was real easy because we just checked the length of the list. That was real simple. Now we need something to actually come through and say, how many times have we tried this on the list, or on the steps here? So we could, technically the way this is all set up, we could go add a new value in here that we could just say the step is an iterable. We could either call it like attempts, or we could call it maybe iterations. Think about this. I was using a Postgres server for the saver. Eventually, I'm going to put one in. Like I said, the checkpointer and having an actual database to integrate it, it is on my far out to-do list. Do you go to Black Hat and DEF CON yearly? I hope to go someday, even though we have an awesome conventions in Europe. Y'all do have really awesome conventions in Europe. I have a lot of coworkers that head out there, and I had one that was just at Black Hat EU, and they were telling me what a great time they had. And so I go to Black Hat, I don't know, every year or two. Probably closer to every 2 years, sometimes every 3 years. I don't go every year, just because I got a wife and kids. The last time I was in Vegas, I was teaching a course at Black Hat, and then I stayed for Black Hat, and then I stayed for DEF CON. That's 11 days in Vegas. That's this many. And that is a long time in Las Vegas. That is a really long time. That's about 7 days more than I'm usually willing to tolerate Las Vegas. Yeah. Hey, Guy, what's up, brother? If it ain't broken, don't touch it. That's right. No touchy. No touchy. I'm going to move this up real quick. And I'm going to move this up just because it seems to be they always want to display this in alphabetical order. And then I am going to make one new field in here. I'm going to call this, I'm going to call it iterations. And this one will do it as another annotated list. So this will be an integer. And what we're going to do with this one is we're going to say number of attempts. For completing this step. Boom, just like that. Yeah, I know my spelling's terrible. Did I misspell iterations too? Yep, sure did. All right, now there's one more thing we have to do with that, which is in our tasking helper. We need to add that over into here. So iterations is going to start at 0 when we seed this sucker. There we go. Now with this change, we can't just go run. Well, I guess technically we could. But we'll probably just have to rerun the exploit agent from entry point and let it do its thing there. I wanted to go to reInvent this year, but my employer didn't want me to. I really wanted to go. I had, even though it was only by invitation, Offensive AI Con, I had an in with those guys, and I really wanted to go, except I was scheduled for something for work that week, and by the time I learned about it, I couldn't bail out on the other thing. So I was really bummed that I didn't get to go to that. Offensive AI Con was over in San Diego. Yeah, so I'll hit it up next year. I had some coworkers go, and they gave me all their notes that they took during it. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to going to that one next year. Hang on one sec, guys. I gotta run to the bathroom. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. I'm back. And no, Gumby, I was not pooping. I can't believe this is not working all of a sudden. Hang on one second. I gotta see if I can fix something real quick. Stand by. Hang on. Let me put OPSEC mode on real fast. Why are you not working? This is killing me. Alright, what if I put this here? Nope. Damn it. I think... So the problem is, what I'm doing is I'm using a program to share the mouse and keyboard between this computer and the streaming computer, and I just can't get to the other computer. And I wonder if it's because I locked something on here. So I'm trying to fix it real quick. Nope. Oh well. I'll mess with it later. I did bork part of it, yeah. Part of it did bork. And that is the system that shares the mouse and keyboard. It's a program called Synergy. Is not synergizing. I don't know why. Alright. Let's go try running this. Let's go try running the iteration with the new iterations value in here. So I'm going to run it from scratch. Let's see what happens. We still have to go fix a lot of stuff in the reviser because we have to now tell it how to handle the new information that we're sending back. That's why we're getting it to fail. But I'm not so concerned about that. What I want it to do for now is get the information back properly structured and properly handled. Then we'll worry about parsing it out and adjusting everything. Okay, so it failed out. That's expected, but let's see what it did. First thing I want to do is check this real quick. So for our steps, we should have iterations right there. Number of attempts for completing this step. All right. So that's in there. Now the question is, hey, all right. It increased it by 1. Perfect. And it validated it. Nice. So far, it's handling everything correctly. Wait, was this the correct task right here? Hang on. Let me double check this. So this is the exploit task right here that you can't see because my big fat head's in the way. So we have nested structures in here, right? So what we have at the high level for the primary agents is we have a task. In this case, the task was, what was it? 1 second, I'll tell you. Let me come down here. Let me drill down into the state table. So here's our task. Our task was actually get a remote code execution from a web shell. And we told it that directly. There was nothing inferred from the language model yet. When we update Stinger, eventually it will get that information. So right now here in the output, notice how we only have one thing in the output. This is actually the exploit task here. And the task was upload the PHP web shell to panel, access it via uploads. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. So that means the output should be coming back nice and clean. So fresh and so clean. Excellent. Excellent. All right, very cool. So now what we need to do to continue on this path is actually take all this information, update what's in the state table, and then bring it back. We're going to bring it on back. So let's go do that real quick. So now that we know the shape of the data that we're getting back an exploit task. This is all the previous logic code that was really the too structured part that we've taken out. And you know what's funny is I don't think we even have... We don't even have a response from this. Come to think of it, that's funny. Let me look at something real fast here. That should not... Oh, this is the return value. I take it back. This is actually correct. We do want that. Here's our response. So this is actually where we're going to make our beginning points right here. All right, cool. Hey, Halkanoi, what's up, man? Thanks for coming online. Welcome in. I hope you're having a wonderful Sunday. Or Monday, depending on which part of the world you're in. Thanks for coming online, man. Welcome in. Welcome to the party, pal. All right, so this is update the exploit task step with the new version from the LLM. Okay. Dude, I like LangGraph. I think it handles its job very well of just orchestrating the workflow and passing data between the nodes. I think it's doing a fantastic job. at that. And I know a lot of developers, they think that LangGraph and LangChain abstract too much information away. I think it's working just fine. I don't have any problem getting the information I need to send to the language model. I don't have any problem getting the information out. Maybe this is too basic of an example. I'm not sure, but it's working just fine for us. What song is this one? Hear Me Say? I'll probably have to take this one out. Unfortunately, I can't skip it because I can't get to the damn streaming computer. I just networked someone who's looking into finding the hiring managers to speak with me. Nice. So one's a remote product manager. Very cool. And one is close software support. So fingers crossed I land something, then I can pivot into cyber internally. Very cool, dude. I'm rooting for you, man. Yeah, Hal, same thing with me, man. I've never had any of those issues. All right, let me think about this. So what we're getting back is we're getting back the entire exploit task. So actually, we don't even need this part right here. This is... Wait, hold on. I can use this, though. Let me double check something real quick. What we're getting back. So this is our exploit task. What is the shape of the data? So we're only getting one tool call back, so we do want to access that 0 element. I think this is just the exploit task right there. No, that's not what I know. Exploit task like that. And then we don't want to update the actual steps. What we want to do is, let's see, this gives us our current task up to this point. We go to output, and then we index that on the current task. So we just take out steps right there. Boom. That's what we want. So we're going to update the entire exploit task. And if you think about it, this actually makes sense of why this should work, because this is what we were doing when we were brute forcing all the nmap output in the recon agent. All of that, we send that big honkin' XML, and basically we have it formatted into JSON for us, and it's been working fine. So what are we doing here? We're sending data. We're saying, here's the format. Here's how to handle the various fields. Send us back a properly formatted piece of equipment. Or a piece of equipment. Jeez. A properly formatted data structure. Dear Python, please work. Sincerely, someone you challenged to survive 4 classes of data science master's degree. Python's a funny duck. And honestly, the reason why I chose Python for this is because LangChain, I had already decided I was going to use LangChain and LangGraph, because those are what I was familiar with. And those only operate on 2 languages. You can do it in JavaScript, or you can do it in Python. And I've had enough JavaScript to last me a lifetime. So I said, let's go and do some Python. All right, so after we update this, let's think about the structure of what we need to do. Let me see what it returned back here. So current step is still 0. All right, so we do need one more thing in here. We want the current step. If it's validated, then we want the exploit task current step to be incremented by 1. So let's go make that change in the prompt real fast. So let's come over to our prompt real quick here. So we have our roles and our definitions and our instructions. All right. We must always return the exploit task data. So when determining the step status value, we do this. All right. Where do we actually send the instructions for if it's validated? Okay, here we go. So if the step completed successfully, update only the step status field to completed. Otherwise, provide a revised step task to correct that corrects for the error or blockage. The step task may contain placeholder text like file name. That should be considered valid for completion. Actually, I think I want to take this out instead of only. Update the step status field to completed. And iterate the, what field did we call that? Exploit task. The exploit task, what was that? Current step. You're killing me, Smalls. Current step. Right, yeah, with an underscore. Yeah, iterate the... Damn it, I hit the wrong button. Iterate the current step up by 1. There we go. So there we go. So if the step completes completed successfully, we update the status field to completed and iterate the exploit task current step by 1. Okay. So hopefully that will fix it. Because then what we're going to do is we're going to take this back from here. What is this song? Drop the act? Okay, that's another one that's got to go. Let me see here. So when we're doing this, so we update our new exploit task. I'm thinking that's the correct one. I don't remember. But you know what we can do? We can put an annoying debug for the response back in there so we can go through and we can see it. So we'll do... And that'll let us know, because this is probably inaccurate, and if it is, that's fine. We'll go through it. We'll fix it up. So once we get that, what we need to do is we need to check. Let's make some notes here. So then we need to check if the step validated. So we can still use the current. Let me see. We can still use the current step up here. Yeah, check against current step. Current step index value in the list. Now the next question is, did it mark the next one as working? It did not. Okay, so it marked this one as validated. We want it to mark this one as working. So let's go, we'll just put that in the, we'll just put that as a directive in the prompt. The whole reason we're redoing this is because we just recently swapped from using Claude 3.7 to Claude 4.5, and we're changing how the data is flowing in and out. And the reason we switched is because Claude 3.7 was just really crap at following the instructions. It was terrible. So Claude 4.5 seems to be doing a much more efficient job. So let's go change this again. So let's change the status of the next list item to new. So if it validates. So let's come back over to our prompt right now. So if the step completed successfully, we update that and iterate the exploit task step by 1. We're going to say, I'm going to actually bust this out into other lines. We'll say, do the following. Ah, no. Undo. Undo. Perform the following steps. Oh, this is incorrect, actually. This analyze portion, this should be down here. Oh, Bobby, dude, thank you for the 10 gifted shells, my man. Appreciate you, brother. And you kicked off a level 3 hype train all by yourself. Hold on. I'm coughing from laughing. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it, man. Black Friday special. All sales final. Everything must go. All shells are on discount. This line right here needs to come out and actually come down here. There we go. Yeah, so this is because down here, this is the directive for if it did not complete. Okay. So we do want that. Bring this over. All right. So if the step completed successfully, do the following. And in fact, I'm going to take this line and move it up. Nope, that was not where I wanted to go. That was the wrong button. There we go. No, that was not correct either. Hold on, what happened here? Yeah, that should go there. This is the one that needs to come up. There we go. Let's drop that right in there. So it can. That was basically the one saying it can work for. If we have placeholders, that's fine. Do the following. So what we'll do here is we'll say. What's this? I had a beard hair on my keyboard. So update the step status field to completed. Yep, and then we'll bring this one down. We want to tell it, iterate the exploit task current step by 1. And actually, we already have this part in here. Provide a revised step task to correct the error or blockage. So we had that duplicated. Let's take that out. And we need some new lines up in this busy. All right, there we go. Let's bring this over one more. So we set the status to completed. We iterate the current step. And then what's the next thing? We'll say set the next step in the, what's that list called? Yeah, there we go. So we'll say in the exploit task, we'll give it the explicit field we want, which is not copying and pasting for some reason, because it hates me. Set the next step in the exploit task steps. I don't want to say this. We want to tell it to set the next one as working. Set the next step in the exploit task steps array to working. There we go. I think that'll work. Boop, boop. All right. So yeah, those are the 3 things we wanted to do. So if it looks at the step and it says, yeah, it's valid, then we want to update the field to completed, iterate the exploit task step by 1. So it says, hey, we're pointing at the next one in the array. And then we want to tell it, set the next exploit task, the next item or entry. Set the next entry in the steps array. What was that field in there? Was it status? Yeah, status. Status of working. There we go. Make sure to subscribe to the Only Hype channel.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby Noise.
Noise. Very nice. Let's see. So update the step status field to completed, iterate the current step by 1, set the next entry in the exploit task steps array to a status of working. Okay, I think that'll work. I think that will do it. Let's save that. Boom. Yeah, I think I want to do that. Let's do that. So since we didn't change anything else in the code, what we can do is we can time travel just a wee bit and rerun it from here. And just run the revisor node. That's going to fail out on us, but that's okay because I just want to see what all it comes back with. Very cool. Actually, it looks like it brought us back some really interesting info in here. Because we can actually look through the thinking steps on it right here. So it gives us the information saying, hey, yeah, you got the artifact correct. So I need to mark the current step as completed, increment the current step to 1, and set the next step's status to working. So did it do that? We did get new, this one updated. It did completed. Is that the correct value for the status? Let me double check. So for an exploit step, oh, it should be validated. That is incorrect. So we need to update the prompt real fast on that. Validated. Hey, now it copied. All right, finally. So minor change there. We'll fix that. But then, yes, navigate to the upload form. It did change it to working. Boom. Excellent. Oh, it did not, although we did miss this though, the iterations. Actually, this is fine. If iterations is 0, that's fine, because really, we only want the iterations to update when it fails. So let's look at that. If it did not complete successfully, use the following criteria. Okay, we don't have information about that in here, so let's go add that in real fast. So what we'll do is we'll say, you know what? I said iterate. I meant to say increment up here, now that I think about it. There we go. Increment that by 1. Perfect. There we go. And then down here, we want to say increment the... What is this? The iterations field. Kill me, Smalls. How did I spell iterations? Iterations. Increment the steps iterations field by 1. I'm just going to do it like that. Increment the step iterations field by 1. Boom. Because we did miss this. Actually, it doesn't matter because this completed successfully. So we fixed this issue. It should have been validated instead of completed. Although completed probably would have been the better word, but that's not what I chose, so we're going to stick with it. All right, excellent. So now the better question is, did we get the annoying debug? There's our annoying debug right there. So what I want to do is take this. Stop. Take that. Let me go look at this in VS Code real quick. Why is it not formatting for me? Probably because I don't have an interpreter set up. Python code formatter. I just want to see if there's an online one. Because I'm lazy. There we go. Format that. Cannot parse. You suck. That's all right. What we can do is we can cheat. Come over here to the Python console. Just drop that right in there. Oh, it's because it's doing this as a JSON. JSON. I didn't import JSON, that's why. I think it's import JSON, like that. Maybe it's lowercase. JSON, there we go. What is the command? I think it's json.loads. I think that's it. Nope, didn't like that. Forget what that one is. You gotta remember, Python load JSON from string into dictionary. Yeah, it should just be json.loads. Why you don't do this? Hey, Palmer, what's up, dude? Let me see if it's load instead of loads. Nah, it just doesn't like it. Oh, I know why. It's because of the way it's split in here. I did import JSON. However, let me see if that does it. It does not. Damn it. All right, fine. We'll do it the hard way. Ooh, getting fast on that mute button when I gotta sneeze. Where are we going with this? Where are we going with this? I think down to meow. Where is it? Where is it? I know it's in here. Actually, hold on. What am I looking for? I know what I'm looking for. Here we go. Here's the tool ID. Tool calls, name, exploit task, args, task. Actually, come to think of it, we just want the args. We don't care about the name. We just want the args right there. Boop. Okay. I was trying to remember what was the structure of the data coming back that we need to actually save. So it's not exploit task, it's just args. We want, damn it, I hit the wrong button. Just the entire list of args right here. I screwed it up. Hold on, what was this one right here for the KW args? Oh, it was nothing. Okay. Yeah, so we just want the entire args structure in there. All right, perfect. So we'll get that. Boom. Just turn on word wrap. Get out of here, go. Bento Boxish. First off, cool username. Second off, thanks for coming online, man. I hope you're having a wonderful Sunday or Monday, depending on which part of the world you're in. Welcome in. Let's see. Okay, so once we get the args out of here, we do want to do this. We'll check if the step validated. Takimar. What's up, man? Thanks for coming online. Welcome in. And I hope you are having a wonderful Sunday or Monday, depending on which part of the world you're in. Let me see here. All right, so first we want to do is we want to check if the step validated. Actually, is that really what we want to do? Before I do any of this, so what we're doing is we're updating the state table so we can return that with what we need. I could break it into multiple lines. I think I've got all the information I need there. Also, Bento Boxish, thanks for popping a shell, brother. Appreciate it. Let me look at the router here real quick. So for the router, what we're looking at is we get the current exploit task, which should now be the new working task. So if nothing's working, actually, you know what? I think because we have taken all this code and basically outsourced it to the language model, I don't know if we actually need to do any of this. What was the actual error that we got from the last run here? Let me go take a look at that real quick. It probably was, hey, we couldn't get this field correctly. Yeah, key error for exploit task. You know what that means? That means that if we come back and we rerun it from here, and if we pulled out all the args correctly, and we've updated the state table, I think we're going to be good. Let's give it the good old college try. Key error on exploit task. Did I not save it? Okay, I'll take a double check that. Let me check something real quick over here in the trace. Hey, that's not too bad. For a little bit of wordsmithing, this language model call only costs us about 2 cents. Not bad. Not bad. Finally, the ads are done. Sorry about that, man. I know that's always what happens. I subbed during the ads in the hope it would stop. It did not. RIP. I've done the same thing too. I was like, can I go see what we're working on? Yeah, and the ads are like, screw you. Papa Bezos needs his bucks. Trying to go back to work at the Hell Desk tomorrow. You remind me of a guy named Mo from the show Bosch. I haven't seen that one. And also, I get the Hell Desk example. I didn't quite work full-on help desk in the beginning of my IT career. I've been in IT for 15 years, which sounds absolutely stupid when I say it. It does not feel like 15 years. And I've been in offensive security for the last 7 years, getting close to 8. But my first job when I did that was I was working at a college, and I was doing this kind of weird combined role where I was doing a little bit of help desk, some server admin, some network admin, and helping students out. So I got kind of that full experience all crammed into one over a 5-year period. So I'm still new to IT. I am. I'm still a pup. I haven't hit the 20-year mark yet. Even though I've got all the gray in the beard up here. Yeah, I still haven't hit the 20 years yet. Oh, so if you sub and refresh, it'll kill the ads? Ooh, that's a nice little life hack to know. Oh, it looks like it... Oh, wait, hold on. Let me come up here. What was the error we got with this one? This was the latest run. Oh, so it hadn't hot-loaded in the code yet. I wonder if... Let me go check the code real quick. Did it not hot-load our code changes? It looks like they all loaded incorrectly. Let me try running that one more time. Let's give it the good old college try here. It only cost me 2 cents, so I'm going to do this again. When you're 30 plus years, let me know. Give me time, dude. I'm halfway there. I'm halfway there, and I'm living on a prayer. List assignment index out of range? What? What? What is this error? Let's go see what we got there. Go back. That's kind of weird. Oh, I thought this one would have worked. So we take the response, we take the tool calls. Another song that I need to remove from the playlist. And I can't even skip the music right now. I am halfway there. I've been in IT for 15 years. She said when you get to 30 plus, for me that includes 30, let him know. I was like, I'm halfway there. And then I made a Bon Jovi reference, which nobody gave a shit about. Oh, man. What am I at? Six more curses, and I gotta go make a donation to charity. Now, why is it saying that this is out of range here? Here's the content. Let me copy this. All right, let's see. I guess it works a little bit. All right, so here's our tool calls. We have call 0. Yeah, so we only have the one tool call, right? There's the end of the tool call. Let me just break this part out. So there's our args list right there. So we only had 2 keys in element 0. Where did it say the error was coming up from? Let me see. Index error, list assignment, index out of range. Really? That's so. I heard Bon Jovi, but at this point it just sounds like I'm patronizing. Not at all, man. One of my favorite things about doing the live streams is raising everybody's hackles and making memes. So why is this saying? Because if we look at our tool call here, we only have one element, right? That's all we've got. And then this is all the data that I want. I want all the args out of here. Actually, hold on, let's do something real quick. So there's, where does this one close up? This one closes up right here. And so we have our ID, we also have our type. Yeah, let me prettify this a bit. Okay. Yeah, so from args, we only have this one. I wonder if I need to... Why is it saying this is index out of range, though? Because tool calls returns an array of all the tool calls. We only have... args only has this one... we only have the one entry in the array, so it should be 0 in there. Yeah, it's tool underscore calls. We take element 0, and then we break out the args value. Index out of range means you're asking for 4, but there's only 3. Yeah, which is weird because, like I said, we only have 1, and I referenced it directly from 0 here. Yeah, but we call tool calls, and then we get element 0 out of it. And then from that 0 dictionary, we then call args. Right there. That's what I'm confused about. Yeah, it's a list. So this is the 0, this dictionary is the only element in the list. So we pull out element 0, and then we pull out the args. And that's element 0's args value right there, which should map directly to an exploit task. I wonder if it was just a fluke? I don't see how it would be, though. Doesn't have the response. Let's go double check real quick, because it should have returned that here. Yeah, so there's our entire list of args right there. The name is our exploit task. And then we just go grab the args right there. Boom. Yeah, and that's the keys here. So right here, this value, once we drill down into the state table, this should be an exploit task. An object of exploit type is exploit task. And then the response is the same structure, exploit task. And so I wanted to take everything from args and drop it into, basically do a complete swap of what's in the state table take that entire dictionary from args and slap it into its place. Yeah, let's go run it one more time because that should be just fine. So this was the error that we got, right? Here. List assignment index out of range. Oh, you know what? I take it back. This is actually erroring. Hold on. Was I reading this incorrectly? Let me look at something real fast. So I think from the display here, it was incorrectly noting which one it was. Because from the display here, it's keying on the current task. So something is wrong with the current task here. So it's not this. The prettified output threw me off. Something is wrong with the current task value. I wonder what the current task value was, because this should be generated dynamically whenever we do this. Let me check something real quick. Let's look at the trace. If we come up here and we look at, let me collapse this down. Oh, you know why? Because it says input was null. Actually, hold on, let me come down here. Let's go drill down into the state table real quick. I think I know what's happening. So if we drill down into the exploit task right here, this one should be status working, current step 0. Yeah, so we're not worried about any of this stuff right here. So that should have been current step 0 when it did that. For some reason, though, the current task came back as blank, which is odd. Very, very odd. Let me try something else. Let's just rerun it from scratch here. Let's make a new thread and we'll run it from scratch. We'll let it go through the whole process. We'll see if we get the same error. It might have been because I changed some of the data structures. Maybe that's why it's not referencing that index correctly. I do. I have a print line right here, annoying debug, which is a special function I put in here to make it extra annoying, to make it easier to spot in that giant spit out. Is that where I've been? Hold on. Current task should be a variable, though. Why is current task not in here? Hold on. There's our current task right there. Hold on. So did our current task get jacked up by this? Hang on. Let's go look at it. The cool thing is now, even with the new chunkier request we're making, it looks like it's only going to cost about 3 to 5 cents every time we run through the loop. So that's cool. Let me look at something. So when I enter the revisor here, this is actually in the top level state table. Current task is 5. Yeah, that should be no problem right there. Because this is task 5. So we go to the state, we get the current task value. Let's double check the drill down here. Make sure this makes sense. So we go into our task list and we're going to go to entry current task. Oh, I'm a freaking idiot. Yep, I'm an idiot. I'm a dummy, I'm a dummy. I'm a dummy, I'm a dummy. Current task is the task, not the current exploit task. I'm a dumbass. Current task index. Yep. That's where it should have been. This should have been current task right there. So let me see. So we go down into the task, we index it on whatever the current task is according to the state table. We drill into the outputs field, and then we go to whatever the current entry in the list is for the working exploit task, and then we override it with everything coming back from args. There we go. Now we're cooking with propane. All right, let me see. All right, looked like it all ran correctly, so let's rerun from here. Let's see what new unfortunate error we get. Okay, we're getting closer. Now, it looks like what happened is it tried to call the browser, and that failed for some reason. So we moved along. Stupid King of the Hill. I love King of the Hill. You bite your tongue, sir. That is a Texas national treasure. And I've been meaning to go watch the new King of the Hill. Yep, so the error has moved along in some way, which is cool. We're making progress. Okay, so the revisor comes back. Let's see what it does. Let's double check everything. So we turned the current step from 0 to 1. That's great. The status is still working. We do not have an initial access exploit. That is fine. We marked this one as validated. And now, since we're on current step 1, we're going to be down into this object here, which it looks like this tried to make it work. So if we come down to the exploit step processor, what did we do here? Oh, I think I know what happened. Yep, because all the data structures have changed. Build exploit task context. Yep, that's what happened. So down inside the browser, we had a reference to this function, but we changed the function prototype. Okay, I was expecting this. Let's go dig into that real quick. What did it say this was? Browser.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby. This is my nighty reminder to not to forget to push it real good.
Push it real good. Hang on, let me fix this real quick. Yeah, there we go. Let me actually see if I can do something with this real quick. Where's this defined at? Okay, here's where we defined it. Now, so I believe we already fixed all the iterations here. Yep. Agents imports it. Okay, here we go.
Incoming transmission from Marano Gumby after you fix it.
Yes, after I fix it. Hold on, where was this? Let me close up some of these. I got too many windows open. That one I don't need. Agents. Let me go back to the definition for this one. So this is in context helpers. Okay, so we already have it doing that. Okay, got it. So yeah, so we don't need this value here anymore. So let's save that. We'll let it hot load. I want to see how far we can get with it real quick before we wrap up the stream. It's almost 11 p.m. I know. Thankfully, I was able to get a nap today. Okay, let me rerun from here. And we'll see if the exploit agent... I know dang it. I know the browser agent is going to have more bugs in it because of the way... Actually, I don't think it will. I think we handled... Nope, I was freaking wrong. Yep. Yep. So that's probably part of the API for the special agents I'm going to need to solidify, which is having it kind of update what's happening in here. Yep. Because what happened now is it did everything. Look, it ran through everything, but then when it got the output back,
Incoming transmission from Moreno Gumby. Can see it, you are blocking it.
I know, my fat head's in the way. But what's happening here is the output is failing. If we come up here, we look at the output error, right? Actually, this thing lies. Hold on. Let's look at the output error here. Here we go. See right here, it's trying to go to the output field to append the results. The problem is that output field right there doesn't exist anymore. We took it out, remember? We go to the scratch pad. So this worked initially. Where is this? This is in agents line 48. All right, so let's go to agents line 48 right here. This is not the correct one anymore. This is going to be the scratch pad. Just like that. Boom. What am I looking for? Terminal. Here we go. Yeah, now we're doing everything in the scratch pad. Did I put that correctly? Now I'm second guessing myself. Now this should be good. Let me see. Go to the current task, output, current exploit task. We go into steps. We go by the step index here. And then we go to the scratch pad. Yeah, that should be correct. Because over here in our exploit step, we added the iterations, but then we only have the scratch pad now, where it's actually just keeping a running list of all the text that's happening. So what should have happened is all the output here from this language model, right here, all of this should have been appended to the scratch pad, so it could see exactly what it did and what was happening. So this is basically, think of this as like an email from one language model to another. That's what we're doing here. Let's try it again. So we'll rerun it from here. Can only concatenate string, not list to string. What? What? Oh, I gotta remember what this is actually returning when we do an execute task. Here's what actually goes through it and it... Oh. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what was the structure of this whenever I sent it. That's what I was trying to remember. Did you see the non-hack on CrowdStrike? I think they have some agent curse on them. Yeah, right? Are you talking about the insider that they paid $25K to give information to? Bro, if you're going to be an insider threat for someone as baller as CrowdStrike, you better up your price. $25K? Come on, man. Different kind of joins, Chris. It's an overloaded word. Oh, I just saw your message there also. And hey hats, by the way. Sorry, I was distracted. I wasn't paying attention to the chat. There's a NASLM discount on Amazon right now. Any good reason I would want to do that versus something where I had an avid... wait, hold on. I screwed this up. So there's the NASLM discount on Amazon right now. Any good reason I would want one for home other than if I were an avid Adobe Creative Cloud user? I run a lot of stuff on my NAS at home. NAS runs my Plex server. NAS runs my N8N server. It runs a couple of other things on there. And it's just nice to have 40 terabytes of storage here in the house. You can't even run to Cambodia for 25K? I know, right? This is one of the, so this is the only section of the entire code base that was actually written by a language model. And I hate it, and I want to go through and rewrite it. Because I don't remember exactly what it's doing. And that pisses me off. Oh, you know what this is doing? This is actually returning... Yeah. Well, if you think about it, Chris, your NAS is basically just a computer with a crap ton of disk storage space on it. So, yeah, I've just about got mine kind of peaked out. But I did that because previously my Ludus server was the NAS, and I didn't like that. I wanted to separate them out. So I got a good deal on a Synology, and I just moved all of the 10 terabyte disks I had up to the Synology. So it's got 5 disks in it. They're running in some kind of RAID configuration. Essentially gives me 4 disks with a hot swap. I forget if it's a RAID 5 or whatever the proprietary RAID system is for Synology. But I essentially have 40 terabytes of usable disk space on it. Yeah. Anything is a NAS if you pack enough drives into it. What is the A invoke going to return here? Let me see something. Oh, this was all horribly written by AI, but it does work. And the reason I hate this code. I want to go rip all this code out and rebuild it from scratch. So what it's doing is it's calling an invoke from the graph whenever it builds it, is what it's doing. Where was this? Here's our execute task. Okay. That's why this is the response state. And then it returns the response state back to this. Okay, so now that I see where it's returning the response state, let me look at this again. You know why this was a list? This was a list because... That was a list because of the way we were originally storing it. We were storing it into a list. So we were doing from a list to a list. Now we're doing from string to string. That's why it's failing. All right. Now I got it. All right. Someone should make a website with an MSRP for leaking data so people would limit the levels of stupidity. The current MSRP should be, let me see, how much is CrowdStrike actually worth? Let's see. CrowdStrike market cap. Let me see. Let's see if we can cope with a formula real quick. I'm curious. Go away. Market cap is $127 billion. Okay. Let me think about this. It should probably be like point... Let me think about this. Hold on. I gotta write this out. So they're at 127. I'm just gonna round down now. So 776. No, go back. Damn it. 127. 776. So that's our millions. Thousands. There we go. Wait, hold on. I think I'm missing a zero in here. Yeah. There we go. 127 billion. So I'm thinking you should do 0.0000001%. Okay, too many zeros. Yeah. This should have been a little bit more. But yeah, there should be a formula here where it's like, okay, this should have been like 100,000. Can I copy that? Paste in? Nah, stupid calculator. But anyway, yeah, it should be a percentage of the market cap. For a second there, I thought MSRP was another acronym I just didn't know. Dude, there's so many acronyms. Let me see if I could run this again one more time. Hold on, did the code hot load? It did. All right. Actually, no, it's gonna fail. You know why? I just noticed we're out of time on the HackBot. Damn it! Damn it! Oh well. Yeah, you needed 3 less zeros. Exactly. Yeah, we'll say it's 1/1000th of the market cap. That should be the minimum price. All right. Unfortunately, that is where I need to wrap it up for tonight. Let's see. CyberDoc is on. Thanks, Gumby.
Incoming transmission from Moreno Gumbio. By the way, you need to add time.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I do. All right. Let's see. What would we say here? Fixed exploit step. Fixing browser agent.
Incoming transmission from Moreno Gumby and push it real good to he.
I'm doing that right now. Hee. Commit and push. Yep, push. Okay. Changes should be up on GitHub now. Let me go verify real quick. No, that's not what I wanted.
Incoming transmission from Moreno Gumby. Don't want a reset like last time.
Dude, do I never want that to happen. I got very fortunate with that. So for anybody who doesn't know, what happened is I got stuck into a loop where I was like, I just want to add one more thing. I just want to do one more thing before I push the code up to GitHub. And you know what happened is I had a stupid misclick after I got something working. I got the exploit agent working like in its very primitive form. And I accidentally rolled back the freaking server. This guy right here, I rolled it back instead of snapshotting it. Because I was like, oh, I'll clean up the code, I'll do this and I'll do that. And I rolled back the damn server. I was saved only by divine intervention that I had had a power outage 2 weeks earlier. And was able to get into the server and snapshot it before I shut down the server for the power outage. If I hadn't had that, 4 months worth of work would have been lost. You would have seen a grown man cry on stream. That's what would have happened. Later, Palmer. You have a good night, sir. All right, let's go see who we can find over on the Twitch side to raid over to. Yes, that is why the Gumby sends nightly reminders. Let's see, who do we got on right now? Science is always on. They're always fun for a raid. Let's see who else we've got going on here. Oh, you know what? Yeah, CyberDoc is on, and he's actually doing Hacking December, so we'll go raid over to him. Yeah. Actually, hold on. What's Adam working on? He's doing more game dev. What's J-Blow doing? Can't tell what he's working on. Actually, we'll go raid over to J-Blow real fast. Yeah, we'll do that. That's me when I luckily backed up my university 1 terabyte OneDrive 1 week before they booted me off. Mind you, that must have been years after I graduated. Good save, bro. All right, guys, unfortunately, that is where I've got to end it for tonight. Thank you all for coming to hang out. HackBot's coming along. I think the new updates to the revisor are going to work. It's going to be able to handle... We're going to see how it handles some of the corner cases once we get the browser fixed. We'll see what happens, but that should be a quick fix. Fortunately, we just ran out of time tonight on the box. Everyone, do me a favor. When you get over to JBlow stream... Oh, let me do this real quick. Hang on. Copy. Link. Here's who we are. Yeah, Max, thanks for coming to hang out, brother. Sorry you catching us right at the very end, but every minute I go past 11 o'clock Central, which is where I'm at, that's a 2% increase in aggro rate for my wife. So I'm currently at a 26% chance to aggro her. And it just gets worse from there. So I do need to wrap up from there. Everybody, when you get over to JBlow stream, do me a favor, drop a bunch of hack the plants in the chat. Let's go light them up. What does aggro mean? Like aggravate, aggressive. I draw fire. Yeah, that's exactly what it means. So, all right, guys. Hey, by the way, tomorrow's Monday, so we do not go weekly into the week. We go crushing it into the week. If it's already your Monday, I hope you're already in crushing it mode. Yeah, sock aggro, no bien. Anyway, take care, everybody. Y'all have a great night. I love you. Peace.